My name is Kerrie, and my goal is to inspire healing and meaning in all areas of life. In this podcast, we will dive deep into conversations. From heartbreak to freedom, we will explore different self-care modalities, learn to be the best expressions of ourselves, and to live with purpose. I'm here to offer my personal insights and to share my story in hopes that it will guide you on your path. This is Heal with Care, a journey of self-discovery. There was a moment in my life where I felt a sense of hope for the first time in a long time. It was a moment where I knew my life was going to be changed forever. But I'm just going to back up a bit because before all of this came into my awareness, there were a few things that had to happen to me first. I was in a car accident. I was sandwiched between two cars, and I left the scene with a whiplash, some annoying muscle twitches, and lower back pain. At the same time, I felt like I needed a career change, and I started applying for different jobs. I thought that maybe if I changed companies, things would get better. The job that I accepted wasn't quite the environment that I thought it was going to be. I realized this when I began questioning whether I need to change who I am as a person. Do I need to change my personality to fit in? Do I need to change how I look? Do I need to put on makeup? What can I do to fit into this role? And what really boggled my mind is that I was asked to take on tasks that were outside of my role, only to realize that I was going to be criticized for them later. My manager became super nitpicky with everything that I did. I even got attitude over the smallest of things, making me feel small. But who was going to believe me? HR? All companies are like this. You go to HR and they don't do anything about it. So I thought to myself, I would just suck it up just like everyone else because everyone goes through this and every corporation is like this. But what I didn't anticipate was how much the commute to work was going to affect me, because ever since my car accident, I was on edge when I was driving, and it sometimes took me over an hour to work. So that was very difficult for me. And I also didn't know that I had the right to stand up for myself when I felt like I was being treated unfairly. I thought that it was normal to be disrespected by those above me, and that all workplaces were like this. I was no different. So all I knew was that I needed the job, I needed the money to survive. And I remember driving home one day thinking, if this is what the rest of my life is going to be like, I'm not going to survive this. So I started going to therapy sessions, and I was told that I was being bullied. And for a while, I was in denial. I was trying to justify my manager's behavior, thinking the problem was me and not them. But the more I thought about it, the more it started to sink in. And I realized, yes, I was being bullied. It may not have been physical, but it was mental, how they were using their words. So I tried to keep going to work as long as I could, but over time, I stopped feeling like myself. I lost my excitement for life and my motivation to get out of bed. The zest I once had was gone, and I found myself missing my old life, which is where I had a lot of energy for activities and to be active. Now, it felt like all I had was time for work and sleep, nothing else. When I started crying on my drive home each day, this is when I knew I needed to make a change. Everything felt like it was slowly piling on. I was at one of the lowest moments in my life. Some people call this a spiritual awakening, but Brene Brown calls this a breakdown. So call it whatever you want. I don't remember why, but I had booked a doctor's appointment, and the day that I went in, my doctor had recommended that I take some time off work. And she was ready to write me a doctor's note for this. And she must have thought that I was being silly because I tried to refuse the note. I hesitated because I didn't think this was normal to take time off. And I was afraid to be looked down upon. I felt ashamed. I didn't want to let down my manager. But after listening to my story, my doctor insisted that I take the note. I eventually took it and I was off for 6 weeks. During this time, I couldn't stop thinking about my job. I was stressing about it. Thoughts ran through my head like, what am I going to do? How will I make money? Did I dig myself in a hole? Why did I take this time off? What will they think of me if I go back? Will I even go back? My therapist had reiterated to me that I needed to really focus on myself for a change and to not think about work. Just do what feels good for me. So instead of stressing about all the stuff about work, I finally gave myself permission to take 1 week to just focus on myself. And I did that. During that time, it was the best decisions I had ever made. I have absolutely no regrets about taking that time off. I started cooking healthy, hearty meals. I was working out. I was stretching my body. I began journaling. I did whatever I felt my soul needed. So through journaling, I learned to sort out my thoughts and feelings, and I began problem solving for myself. So I would just write freehand whatever was coming to mind, and sometimes I would get solutions. So it really gave me the opportunity to figure out who I am and what I deserved in life. I also remember writing a list of everything I didn't like about my current job. I wrote all the things that I wanted in a job, most of which were the opposite of what I was currently experiencing. I wanted a workplace where I could be 100% myself, where I would be supported by my manager and coworkers, where we could work as a team and help each other. I wanted to feel excited about going to work and seeing my coworkers. I knew how I wanted to be treated in life, and that was with respect. So as my mind started to slow down, I started to gain more clarity, and suddenly, one day, I heard a voice inside my head telling me to find a meditation group. I ignored it at first, but as the voice got stronger, I decided to look up this meditation group. I found a group that meditated on Wednesdays, and they were just about 15 to 20 minutes away. It took me a month before I finally decided to attend, but what happened next blew my mind. I went into this meditation group with an open mind and an open heart, and I met some of the most loveliest people there. And there was something special about meditating in a group. It's like I was actually able to sink in, relax, and let go. They asked us to remain open to whatever would come up. And so I did that, and I remember seeing a lot of symbols, the different shapes in my mind's eye. I remember going up to them and asking, what does this mean? And they had asked me, what do I think it means? Because I remember seeing a bunch of different eyes on me. And I said, I'm worried about being judged. And they just looked at me, smiled, and nodded. It's like, you got it. So after the meditation part, they had a healing circle. And the lady in the group, who happened to be a medium, told me that she had seen me on a paddleboard when I was in the middle of this healing circle, and that I looked really peaceful. At the time, I thought it was strange because I had never paddleboarded before, and I did do dragon boating in high school and I loved it. So I thought maybe like the paddling the water was something that I loved, that it was just a representation. But little did I know is that paddleboarding would be one of my favorite things in the future, and that is how I met my partner today. They asked me at the end of the session if I would like to come back, and because I had felt so welcomed, I agreed to come back. And the next week, I came back expecting another meditation session, but what I didn't know is that they alternated between meditation and messages from spirit. And boy, was I in for a treat. A medium took the platform and asked if she can do a reading for me. I thought, sure, this should be fun. And after she started talking, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt like she was spying on my therapy sessions. How could she have known all this information that was going on with me? She started saying, money, you're worried about money. At that time, my biggest concern was money. She told me that I was going through a difficult period, and she mentioned that I was asking the universe why. And this is something that I was doing on my way home from work when I was crying hysterically every time. I'd be asking, why? Why is this happening to me? Why do I feel this way? And she told me that one day I'd be able to help others in a way that felt purposeful and fulfilling. So I'm not going to give you the details of my reading, but I was mind blown. She had hit all the pain points at that time in my life. And looking back at my journal entry for this day, I had written down how much hope I had felt for the future after this mini reading. This mini reading had changed my life, and it gave me a whole new outlook on life. So while the medium was delivering her messages, I was just crying hysterically. It was the first time in my life where I felt seen and heard. And this is where my healing journey began. It started to turn my life around. Since being in this community, I've learned that crying is a form of healing. Now, in the past, I would always try to hold back the tears. I wouldn't try to show anything. Growing up, I was always told that I was a crybaby. But now, when I feel like crying, I just cry and I let it flow. And I allow myself to feel the feelings. And I feel so much better after. There are so many things in life where we're told to shut down our emotions because sometimes it's uncomfortable. But I've realized that it's actually really healthy for you. So I just feel my feels. So if that wasn't mind-blowing enough, I have learned to connect with spirit myself since then, but I will save that for another episode. I'm also very happy to report that I eventually landed a job that was the right fit for me. I was able to be authentic from the moment I walked into the interview until my very last day there. My coworkers felt like my family. They were the most supportive people that I have ever known. And I had the best manager anyone could ever ask for. So the universe did hear my prayers, and I received a message that I needed to hear that day. Even though I was overwhelmed, I realized that life has a way of aligning us with what we need, even if we don't realize it. As I look back, I see that this journey was more than just finding a new job. It was about finding my self-worth, embracing who I am, and connecting with a purpose that goes beyond a paycheck. I learned that the more that we listen to our own needs, the more we find ourselves supported in ways we could never expect. I hope that my story reminds you that even in stressful and overwhelming times, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that you are never truly alone on this journey. Sometimes we just have to take a step back, look within, and trust that there is something better out there for you. So stay hopeful and remember to listen to the inner voice as it guides you. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you found this episode insightful. If you feel called to, please share this podcast, subscribe to it, and leave a rating and review. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at healwithcare@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at healwithcare. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.